Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm speaking with John Maiuri, president of ECI's Building Supply Division, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the trends that we're seeing in the LBM world here in 2024. So, John, I'll just kick it off by asking the broad question: what trends are you seeing that everyone should really be paying attention to right now in the LBM space?
The speed of change with respect to technology and digitalization in the marketplace. It shouldn't come as any surprise to people that there is a material sort of transition to online engagement in some fashion or another in virtually every aspect of our daily lives, through research, market research that we've done and continue to do. When you reflect on the big box stores in any geography, especially here in the US, you can see trends of growth in e-commerce related sales, and I'm qualifying the remarks to related because of it, to the extent that it's broken down. The likes of Home Depot and Lowe's are reporting that many of their in-store sales are driven from online research done in advance or online commitments to orders in advance of pickup in store. And so the data suggests that with respect to those two particular companies, and certainly the likes of Amazon, the trends are there continuing, and there is material growth projected ahead for that activity.
That makes sense. And so if I'm an LBM dealer, right, I'm planning out my strategy. Should that be my top priority above addressing things like labor shortages, maybe even inventory issues that I'm having internally? Is that the number one thing that LBM dealers should be looking at right now? Is that adoption of technology?
Well, interestingly enough, I think that there's to the other two sort of segues that you presented, they're all interrelated, to the extent that having telemetry to your customer or into the market and understanding trends and what people are shopping for and what kind of demands that might put on inventory levels or stock levels and needs for availability. There's a data point connection with respect to e-commerce, and certainly there's an argument to be made that there's opportunity to have a one-to-many engagement aspect of the business with respect to an investment in e-commerce. If you can create an e-com site that is scalable to virtually unlimited amount of engagement with the consumers and trades in your particular market, it will and can exceed the capacity of an individual sales rep inside the store. At a minimum, it certainly augments the capacity of your in-store sales staff, and some of the challenges that our customers and the broader market have experienced with respect to employee turnover and challenges in rehire and domain expertise in the industry and all the various components. It is a pretty interesting parallel to the very early days of computing in this space, where people were buying software systems to enable individuals to do more with less effort.
So that's a kind of a common theme we'll see, right, with the sales team. Let's say that you're a dealer, you're looking to adopt e-commerce. The sales team pushback is, I might be a little bit nervous about this replacing me, right? So what would you say to those sales team members that are worried about e-commerce? How do we make e-commerce their friend as opposed to their enemy?
Well, I certainly am not going to suggest that there isn't some potential there. But this industry is, I've always looked at it, especially so on the LBM side, but even in small hardware store engagements, the consumer or the trades come to the business for the expertise in the business. it's not like software is going to invent that expertise on its own. It requires the engagement of the source of the expertise, which typically resides in sales staff and line managers and owners of these facilities and the vendor community that supports them. And so it takes people to get that structure kind of built and cultivated and coveted over time in an e-commerce presence. So I all this worry over AI taking over the world and replacing people in every job that might be out there, I think is more hyperbole than it is reality. Certainly there's always sort of possibility for some potential reductions in workforce, but I would think more along the lines of individual enablement and all of the things that e-commerce can actually solve for. In my early days in this business, people used to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on yellow page advertising, which, I don't know when the last time you picked up a phone book, but I've not seen one in quite some time. And you rely upon the internet and people's websites and their web presence. And fundamentally, if you're doing the right thing through that medium, it has the capacity to benefit your business or potentially not help it at all if you're relying on the fabricated presence that someone like Google or others make on your behalf because you don't have a presence. So I think investing in these sort of forward technologies, if we want to refer to e-commerce as a forward technology at this point in the game, is a very relevant and extremely beneficial opportunity for anyone in this space.
Yeah, it's said something interesting there about AI, obviously, hot topic. It's maybe not as big of a threat as some people will make it out to be, especially for LBM dealers in the hardware space. So what is the biggest threat this year that you think to this industry?
I think it remains consistent with what it's always been. The effective management of your business in those areas that are extremely difficult to control, inventory management, pricing management, margin management. If you're in the building material supply part of the industry or in lumber products, being able to buy low and sell high on the commodity items, ensuring that your out of stocks are at a minimum, that your supply chain is in good health, that your people understand what they're selling, to whom, stay educated on products. And all of that is easier cared for through the use of technology and potentially AI. But applicable AI in our space is more about helping with interpretation of data and sort of the assistance, so that you don't have to rely on paper reports and point-in-time screen sort of queries that the system can help suggest and point people in the right direction to adjust their business appropriately.
So if we can dive in a little bit more on labor shortages, we know that technology can help in that area, and you spoke about it a bit earlier. To go into specifically, what are some of the things, if I'm really struggling with that as a dealer, how do I look at technology and how can it help me solve that problem of the never ending labor shortage that seems like, it's just going to go on forever and ever since COVID?
Well, I've got a great deal of compassion for our customers and many of the, if not all of the prospects that we encounter throughout our activities as a business, selling software into this vertical. I grew up at a time where, and in a rural community where you were taught to be sort of self-sufficient, you had to take care of yourself, and they taught trades in high school. People had wood shop and metal shop and those sorts of things. And certainly that was in addition to cooking and writing and typing and so on, right? They weren't using chisels and stone back when I went to high school, but so there were keyboarding skills and that sort of thing, typing skills. That at the time, typing and keyboarding were considered to be technology-based education. In today's day and age, the many of these programs have diminished in the schools, and so as a result, people are less oriented to this sort of vocation, if you will. You see and hear of challenges in the builder trades, getting help, and people that are qualified to swing a hammer, can't read rulers and those sorts of things. It's not a lot different for our customers and people in the building material supply and hardware stores. The amount of people that can intuitively, fix a toilet or repair a sink or paint a room is diminishing, and there's a solution for that, and it's potentially technology and speed to understanding what it takes to do these projects and jobs and so forth. You see video content, online content. I've got 3 adult children. My youngest is nearly 40, and they tackle home projects using YouTube as a resource, watching recorded videos of people that are doing projects and so forth. So technology serves a purpose. I'm not suggesting that it's the end all be all, but in today's day and age, I'm not sure how anyone gets by without it to some degree.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's just become integrated into our everyday lives. I want to shift a little bit to, and again, you alluded to it there, a little bit of that DIY, right? Like we've seen a rise in that. We're seeing the average, the median spend for a household go up year over year on, fixing up what they already have, right? They want to stay locked into that low interest rate, a low mortgage rate on their home. They're not necessarily looking to move anywhere. They got to fix what they have. Can you just talk about how our customers, how people we work with on a day-to-day basis can look to capitalize on that? What are the things that they can implement in their business to lock into this growing DIY trend that we're seeing continue to get bigger and bigger every year?
Well, it's interesting, as you know, and certainly I'm very familiar with, we have a pretty widespread constituency within our customer base, and in turn, their businesses serve a pretty wide range of the market. In standalone hardware stores, there's a fairly significant amount of DIY engagement at various levels, and certainly many of those sites, especially if they're in urban areas, service companies that have responsibility to multiple buildings or apartment management, where you would classify that customer more as a trade than a DIY person. In the building supply end of the business, the DIY penetration kind of varies across the various customers. Some are heavy DIY, home center type oriented, and others carry a heavier weight towards servicing the trades. I would suggest that people should never underestimate, even if they're oriented to the trade businesses, the nature of involvement at the DIY level. They may not actually be doing it themselves, but in many, many cases, the homeowners or the property owners are driving decisions from behind the scenes. The businesses that I was involved with prior to the software industry, we had lots and lots of clients that were making decisions and having tradespeople actually do the work for them, but they were securing the products, they were picking the selections and the quality of the merchandise, and making those many, many decisions that need to be made on a project of scale or size. Servicing that business, people rely on their personal technology, the cell phone they carry around in their hands every single day. And, so if they're asked a question or they're needing to make a choice or a decision, they have the ability to search the internet and look at, referrals, look at references, look at customer satisfaction in on websites, and be able to make what they perceive to be an informed decision on their project, or make the purchase and choose to do it themselves. But they are using technology specifically to understand it when it was never native to them previously. That, whether they're renting an apartment or they own a home, it's a very, very similar process.
That's a good point. And I think, if I am somebody who's looking into adopting more technology, you said it there, right? You can't underestimate kind of the consumer side of things. You still need to be able to cater to your tradespeople, your contractors. So when I'm evaluating technology, what are some of the features I should look at that fit both those groups, right? Like, I know I need a feature set that serves this group and a feature set that serves this group. What are the things that I should be looking for to tick the boxes if I'm making a decision on technology adoption?
Well, with respect to the trades, the building contractor, the general contractor, the subcontractor, the handyman, and so forth, those people make their money through the use of their skill, and they have just so much time to accomplish it. So if your business is still not capturing the opportunity that digitalization presents, they have to come to you to engage, to manage their account, to pay their bills, to settle disputes, to find out information, to get rough openings and sizes and so on, determine whether you do or don't have inventory. All of these things, all of that becomes a physical process, or at a minimum a telephone call. And oftentimes their availability is not necessarily convenient to the merchant's availability. If you're a contractor, you're swinging a hammer all day long, you barely have time to take a lunch break or a coffee break. And so you tend to try and do your business in the evening hours. And at that point, you can't necessarily get the local independent dealer on the phone or merchant on the phone. And so some of that engagement slips to the people that can stand to be open extended hours, and I'm referring to the big boxes, that have hours till 9 or 10 p.m. at night, and an online presence 24/7 and so forth. So I would suggest, much the same as it is for the DIY market, convenience is the new loyalty, and ultimately being convenient from an availability standpoint and from an information standpoint. People need to think about scale, being able to scale. When I was in business, we had 4 or 5 telephone lines, and it wasn't unusual for them to be all occupied at the exact same time, where people would get busy signals trying to reach out to us and have to leave messages and so forth. Well, that doesn't happen on the web if you have a scalable website that enables people to service themselves and get the information they need, find it easily, suggest that they want to buy, place an actual order, make a payment on their account, so forth. So the key trigger points for me from a trade perspective is having this self-serve capability from an account management standpoint, and specific tools that enable the trades to be more successful in their own businesses. With respect to the DIY market, it's not terribly different. It's very similar. Can I create a transaction and get it done by myself online? As myself as an example, and I've been in this industry for a very long time, I have very limited availability to take care of myself from a procurement and information or selection concept, and I rely heavily on the online presence of some of our own customers, and unfortunately some of the big boxes and people like Amazon, because it's so easy to transact business there.
That's a fair point too. And I know you talked about the big box stores, right? And we've kind of seen their adoption of technology and e-commerce to better serve their customers. What are some of the things that you're seeing that they're doing that an independent can also adopt, right? They're not going to have these millions and billions of dollars, but what are some of the little things that I could do as an independent to be able to compete with a Lowe's and a Home Depot and all these big box stores that are popping up everywhere around me?
Well, historically, our our customers, pretty much across the board, have relied on their vendor community to support them from a technology and even an online presence basis. And while that's a step in the right direction, I certainly would be the last to criticize anyone for making choices like that. I would suggest that that should be looked at as a channel, and it serves a purpose with respect to the products that those national providers deliver, but it doesn't allow for the level and amount of personalization that should be thought about with respect to the individual business and their own opportunity online. Characteristics that are very relevant would be being able to distinguish yourself from others. You're in a better position of control if you're managing that direct to market channel yourself, where you're not subject to the competitive nature of being one of very many on these national sites. I don't suggest not doing business with those national sites, but I think it should be an adjunct to this broader ownership of the process yourself. I think that largely helps deliver the opportunity that having this part of the business presents. And it, the nature of and this is an interesting correlation. I'm off on a tangent here, but there's a very interesting pressure point in a business like ECI's, specific to the building materials group, where modern technology, like having a web presence, is driving fundamental changes in the operating software of the brick and mortar business itself in order to facilitate that digital presence. And I think that that's a good thing. This is sort of a material opportunity to deliver what's referred to and been referred to now for a number of years, a more omni-channel sort of experience in the marketplace, where the customer gets the very same significant level of engagement that they can achieve in store with some of the best staff that you might have to engage with a customer via the web. If you're able to get to that point, you've done a remarkable sort of job of embracing these concepts, where you're able to deliver the convenience people look for and are excited about, and capture the nature of how some or many people would enjoy doing business with you. That's sort of the core goal that we're chasing as a business ourselves, being able to present that opportunity for our customers to have that omni-channel experience in their business as quickly as it can be achieved.
I think you said it there, right? The best of both worlds, where if I'm a consumer or I'm a contractor, whoever, I can come to you and still get your expertise, but then also have the convenience of an online channel that I can go shop, I can research, right? I can check inventory levels before I even have to engage with anybody at the store level.
Correct.
Yeah. So we just put out a brand new trend report. ECI has done a lot of extensive research on this. And an interesting stat that I found in this is that 72% of family-owned businesses want to keep that business within their family, right? And we know a lot of independents, they're family-owned. So an example, if I'm a family-owned lumberyard, right, and I'm looking to keep the business in my family, what's some advice that you would give to them to do that successfully? What are some of the conversations that you need to have? What are some of the things you need to document in order to make that possible, to where your business doesn't just disappear, it actually gets handed down to the next generation?
Well, certainly there's no shortcuts. The observations over the years, and it's funny you raised that question. I sent into our marketing people early this morning. I get a number of online trade via marketing concepts and pieces come to me through various sources. And I was reading through a trade magazine, the most recent announcement of companies that have reached the 100-year mark in their businesses. At 100 years, you're in that third and potentially fourth generation of ownership. I think it's a worthy recognition. I always enjoy seeing that. We have a great many customers that have earned that distinction and then some. One of our oldest customers that recently exited the business a year or so ago had been in the supply trade for nearly 300 years. What a wonderful accomplishment for a family. I guess the best advice I can give is if you want the younger generation to be interested in the business, you have to make it easier for them to earn a living than it was for you and your father and grandfather and mom or whoever's part of the family started the business. The younger people today are much more aware, much more quickly than many of us were 40 and 50 years ago or 100 years ago. I'm not saying that they're smarter, that's not the point, but they're exposed to a lot more, and there certainly can be easier ways to make a living than potentially running a hardware store or a lumber and building materials supply operation. And that sort of facilitation of it being less complex, less complicated, easier to expand and continue to grow, I think can only come through some investments in technology and embracing change, regardless of where it sort of points you. I think people know when it's time to exit a business. But if you truly want to covet the next generation or, one down from there, having a good feel for making it exciting and presenting them with a future opportunity can only come from considering technologies that aid in that process.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. And someone internally has a great note, where your father or your grandfather probably adopted a phone system at some point, and that was considered the cutting edge technology. And now what is it that you need to do in that same regard, right? To be able to continue that business moving forward. One last question for you, John. If I'm, somebody in our industry and I'm looking, at e-commerce and I'm thinking, it's just not for me right now. It's something maybe I'll get to in the future. What would you say to somebody that comes back to you with that response, that it's just now is not the right time for me?
Yeah. So, in an industry where the to a large measure the focus is on procuring inventory at the lowest possible price so that you can sell it at the market price necessary to achieve a sale, is the predominant focus. We're in an industry where people are hypersensitive to the cost of goods sold. It's not an easy business to make, superior margins in. Certainly margins in hardware stores are traditionally higher than the margins of a full service volume builder focused distribution yard. No argument from me. But ultimately, people need to think about the value of getting on the bus quickly enough so that they're not behind when it's going to really count. And, so when I reflect on data points, you mentioned some research that we've done for this type of conversation. I recently was pouring through the Q3 reports out of Home Depot and Lowe's, and Home Depot through Q3 of 2023 reported a 3% loss in same store sales with a 5% gain in online purchasing. And in Lowe's case, it was a similar report that they'd lost same store sales. But the implication was that online origination of engagement with customers had grown. That trend is material as it relates to independent business owners. You need to be aware of what's happening around you. And, it's only a matter of time before people like a platform such as Amazon somehow are able to solve for the distribution part of this industry, where their platform with one click presents a level of engagement that many of us are not necessarily completely prepared to deliver. So I appreciate people trying to reserve that money for some other purpose, but I don't know that there's any more important investment in your business than moving to this digital frontier and the opportunity that it will present over the next several years and well into the future.